All right, folks, this is Burning for Dallas. I am your host, Evan Price from the On Your Left Power Rankings. And I am here with two of my favorite people in sport of triathlon, but we're usually here with three. So we're going to say three. Josh is here in spirit. We got Benny Randall, Josh Money Monda, not with us currently, Kaeleb the Kale Salad Pennington. These are three friends, training partners, and for the purpose of this podcast, also immediate competition to each other in 4 weeks. I got that right. I made sure I looked at my training peaks to make sure this episode I finally got the amount of weeks right.
Nice.
We're here to discuss our lead up to the season opener for North American Racing Non-Pro Series, Dallas Little-Elm. Boys, we're past the halfway point now since when we started, I think. We just crested past the halfway point of this. As we discussed last time, the offseason's over. We're into preseason now, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if preseason is probably still offseason, but it's close enough to racing now that we're all starting to gear up towards this build to Dallas. And then 2 weeks after that, Oceanside for all three of us here too. So really it's a bang bang type racing start to this season. So what we're going to do first is we are going to go around the horn like we have been. We're going to talk training volume. We will do a best and worst. And then we're going to kind of dig into the weeds here a little bit today. We already were rolling for 10 minutes before this podcast, before we even turned it on. So I think everybody's getting excited to race. Everybody's getting excited to talk about how their training's going, how they're feeling. I think this is we're into the last 4 weeks where these podcasts get a little bit more fun because you can feel the anxious energy start to build as across North American pro podcasts, Strava. I always joke that at this point is when people are either really sharing their training data because they're getting excited, or they are like logging off of Strava for a second because, which is fine. Things may just not be going that well. I remember this time last year, I was very injured and not feeling good. So I did not like sharing data at that time. If you're feeling good, you're sharing data. People are getting sick or injured. So it is, if you're in the thick of it right now, just understand you are probably not alone, especially in the North American pro field like we know right now. So let's start with our training volumes. Let's go to Benny first. Benny, give us your week and your best and, no, let's go through your training volumes. We'll roll back through for best and worst.
Yeah. So from Friday to Friday, basically, because we're recording here on Friday the 13th, I think I'm about at 25 hours. I think I'm like adding this all up in real time on Training Peaks. But about 25 hours, looks like about 12 hours, I think, on the bike, and that's including that Saturday long ride. And I believe I'm around 25K on the swim. I haven't added up the mileage for running, but I think we're somewhere around probably that like 6.5 hour mark for total run volume there. So yeah, getting kind of right in that sweet spot for me of about like 25 hours per week.
Right around 100K running, somewhere around there.
Yep.
That's probably that good. Nice, consistent, not need to go much over that type run volume.
Yeah. Yeah. And then best session, I definitely could lean into the layup here, which is the run workout of the week, but I think I might actually switch off here and do this master's sesh that I did this morning. We've got a really good, or I've got a really good group that I swim with here in Fort Collins, called Fast Masters, and there's a few like former SMU, Texas, like NCAA swimmers that just kick my ass like every time I swim with them. And on Fridays we're typically doing like a distance day. It kind of switches up. Some weeks it's a long course, 50-meter pool, and some weeks it's just short course, 25. Today was short course 25, but it was a pretty like distance oriented set, and main bit of it was 3 rounds of 5x100 on a 120 base, and then immediately following that a 50 faster on that same 120 base. And you kind of would be aiming for that 50 faster to be hitting the next round of hundreds pace that you would want to be doing. If I wanted to swim 110s on the next round, I would swim a 35 for that,
Okay.
for that 50. So like pretty good numbers for me, like given where I'm at. I think where I was at a year ago, I probably would have been damn close to like 10 seconds per 100-yard slower on this, but ended up swimming 112s for the first round, and then a 35, and then I was kind of in that 110 range, then a 33 for that second round of 5x100, and then for the last round I was kind of hovering between like 107 to 109 with I think like a 31, 32 or something for that last 50. And no gear or anything on that set.
What was the structure of that again?
So it was
How many hundreds?
5 by 100 on
Okay,
120 and then 50 faster on that same 120. So no like break, but you get kind of you get a 120 interval for a 50. So you kind of get a reset a little bit there. But I was really pleased with that set. I don't think I've ever swam consistently holding kind of around that pace for what basically is a mile main set, like a 1650 set. So
3
it was
rounds of
really,
that. I
was
mean,
really happy with that.
I'm not sure if I'm touching. Well, I'm definitely not going under 110 for those right now. I think I'm making that send off with you up until you go under 110 there. But I mean, Josh had pointed that set out to me, and I was like, well, he's at least swimming half a body on me now. And you're right. That's pretty close to what Josh is. I would say Josh is probably doing a very similar set to that right now.
Yeah. No, but that was a good one for me.
What's the RPE on that last round? Are you going are you all in?
That's what I was going to say is I probably was around like an 8 or a 9. I would say like
109 down to 107 is what you did that last.
Yeah. Well, no, to be fair, it was 107 on the first one, and then it was just holding on for the rest.
Oh, so you hit 107s across those 5.
No, 107 on the first one, and then it was just kind of holding on for the next 5. So like 107,
gotcha.
I think it might have been like 109, 108, 109ine, something like that. So,
still, I mean, that's under 110. That's 10 something. That's
on 120.
So much better swimming. Yeah, that's so much better swimming than you were doing last year. Like that's a different world of swimming than what you were doing last year.
Yeah, last year I think it would have been like legitimately 120s, I think. Like maybe I would have been under that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it would have been touch and go off a 120 send off. Basically, it would have been 118s would have been touch and go. Yeah. I mean that's very solid, dude. That's very, very solid. Okay, so then give us we'll just roll through, give us your worst too. What was what session you struggled the most on this week?
Yeah, worst sesh. I feel like there's a lot of talk right now on like social media and on other podcasts about like how many sessions should you fail a week, and it kind of got me thinking about like I feel like I don't fail enough or have like enough bad sessions, which is something that is
we should definitely bury you way more. That's what a ridiculous off season. Before we turned this on, we're already joking about how aggressively we all form opinions in the off season, and that's hilarious. That's actually a very funny take. Is like, are you failing enough sessions?
I think
is your coach being ridiculous enough with their prescription of workout structure?
I think there's a Morgan Pearson quote back when he was like,
yes,
when Twitter was big. There's a Morgan Pearson one where he was like,
well, they had the all hard work club rules, number of rules they did. Yeah.
Yeah. And he said something like, if you're not like having a bad workout, you're not working hard enough or something.
Yeah, it was something like if you don't fail workout, you're not training hard enough or something like that. Yeah. Which was, I mean, you gotta love Mad Mac and Morgan's era of that, because the funny part about when they started coming out with those rules is I feel like that was the time period where like we were kind of transferring more to the idea that like, hey, appropriate training and like, being smart about your training is good. Zone 2 became popular. So it was like, let's be pragmatic, smart, and measured in how we train. And Morgan and Matt were like, we're going back to 1982. We're like, it was, if you're not bleeding by the end of a workout, you didn't go hard enough. Everybody should taste pennies every single workout. And it's, I mean, it was just a funny, like, they obviously did a lot of it tongue in cheek, but it was great content at the time.
It was maybe the best era of try content. That was awesome.
It really was. It really was. Yeah.
So my worst session, I don't think I had any like fail sessions or anything like that, but I did have, I think it was the 20-mile long run on last Sunday. And it's not that it went poorly. Like I ran 20 under 2 hours. It was like 540 something pace, but it was grindy. Like
it was supposed to be grindy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just wore like trainers for it. It was windy as hell. Cause it's been super windy lately here in the kind of foothills area. I just like every mile felt like it was like effort level wise, like 20 seconds faster than what it actually was. So it was
that's good. There
like
you go.
Good, but a just hard one to get through.
Not flashy, but very, very, very solid work out there. I would actually say, but before we go over to Kael here, I would say your worst session was actually that run. And there's only one reason I say that is because you added another rep on the end of it. Saw that extra rep.
My run workout yesterday.
The numbers were nuts, but as me and Josh continue to remind Benny, is he does not need to prove to anybody that he's anybody who even moderately watches this guy training knows his level of running. So at this point, we just have to keep convincing you to save those last reps. But maybe that social media influence is getting too much in there where he's like, am I not going hard? Maybe I should do 8 by 3K and see if I fail.
Yeah. Maybe I
need to
should fail. Yeah.
I just need to keep on going until the wheels completely fall off.
I need to re-break my femur. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, let's see how
Jeez.
close we can get here. But yeah, I mean, huge week still, regardless. But just take, I mean, no, not even a huge week. Good week. Clip it through. No reason to do extra.
Yep.
Now, speaking of huge weeks, though, we're moving on to Kale here, who was our resident Be Appropriate early season guy not that long ago. Then I'm not on Strava anymore, but I go and check. I still follow some people on a ghost account just so I can keep track of some people I coach. And I go on there and I'm like, Kale Salad's going nuts in his last 2 weeks of training. All of a sudden, the Strava graph is just like steady, nice across, and boom, goes straight up for a couple bike weeks here. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Kale.
we got the 20-meter draft rule now, so it turns out I got to actually learn how to ride a bike. No, so my last 7-day training volume is right at 23 hours. I hit 14 hours on the bike, ran about 43 miles in like 5.5 hours, and then swam 3.5 hours or like right under 20K. Pretty decent volume. One caveat I have to make is I took one day where I did 1 hour of training and one day completely off. So I'm averaging like 4.5 hours a day on like the on days. Just the off days, like I'm either on or I'm off. So
Are you guys going to keep repeating that structure, do you think, Kale?
I love having an off day and I love having a day where I do an easy swim and an easy run. My work schedule is kind of chaotic. Like I'm working probably close to 40 hours a week at like 3 different jobs. So I'm kind of bouncing around all the time. So to have a day where I can
Mhm.
just help around the house, honestly, and like be a person is really nice. So, my one day that I always take off is Saturday and I'll work
Okay.
9 hours. I'm gone from the house for like 11 or 12 hours. Like I'm gone all day. And having a day in the week where I'm only working for 4 hours and then training for an hour is pretty nice. And, like, the total volume, obviously, like, as I progress throughout the season will increase, but we've kept this structure for 4 or 5 years now, and I think that it's a pretty good way to fight off illness, and it's a pretty good way to get increased recovery, and I mean, I'm knocking on wood right now, but I don't tend to have a ton of, like, stress reactions, and I don't get sick a whole lot, which I think is, like, the long-term consistency is way more important than the overall, like, if you can handle 30-hour weeks in your Benny and, like, you're just your bot like, that's what you have to do to increase fitness, then do that, but I don't have to do that. My training age is much younger.
Yeah.
I haven't.
But also if you're consistent, I mean, think of it this well, and we'll get into this in our main topic for sure. But if you knock off a bunch of 24-hour weeks, let's say you knock off 12 of them within a block, but you're somebody who can touch that 28 to 30 hour, but you get sick or you start to fail workouts and chop volume during a week. Bizarrely enough, sometimes that average volume does not come out that far because you do 1 0-hour week, let's say, or the classic, I know we're all seeing it this time of year, the person who touches the sun a little bit too close and they're sick and they get sick, like a week and a half. Well, if we want to talk averages of volume, which I do think is important, but it should not be the be all end all. Well, you just tanked your the average just tanked over that 4 or 5 weeks. So cool, you put together a 28 to 30-hour week. Well, now you've been sick, and now your average obviously is dropping that over that month.
Yeah, you're off for a week, and you take 2 more weeks to get back to where you were 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, because the climb back sucks. I mean, we all know that climb back. It's terrible. So, Kale, being dialed into that recovery cycle and you knowing that, hey, Saturdays historically is the day I need off, nobody should convince you otherwise then, unless me or Josh super peer pressure you to take a day off of work and come ride with us. But that'd be the only reasons.
Yeah, and it's also just, like, reminding everyone that, like, life is being a person is stressful, and it's not the same stress as training stress, but life stress exists as
Mhm.
well, and you have to balance all the kinds of stress, and
Yeah.
exceeding your maximum output is you're gonna get sick, and I've taken that day and smashed it and done a 2-hour ride, that's easy, and then I get sick 2 days later, and it's just like, well, this
Yeah.
is this is the system that works.
Cut into your recovery and your body makes you pay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
I wanted
So
to touch on oh, go for it.
let's go to your worst first though, Kale. I
You
wanna
know
I wanna go to
day.
that first. No, because I wanna talk through it because I don't think it's as bad as you think it was. But I think
No.
we probably agree on what like you think your worst session was, right?
Yeah, so I had a 2K time trial yesterday, and it like, I had planned like, I'd done 1Ks before, I'd never done a 2K all out, and I'd wanted to be, like, 22 to 22:30, which is 106 to, like, 108 pace. Not super fast, but
Mhm.
a 2K is really, really long, so to be able to hold that speed is solid, and
Mhm.
I went out in 5:20 for the 500, and then
Fast.
my final 1500 was like right at 8 minutes, and I finished, or 18 minutes, and I finished in 23:20, like in 23:21 or something like that. And I agree with Evan because he's gonna say like, oh, it wasn't that bad, but I also like looking in the context of it. The most important thing for me is that I is getting to my best workout, which was the workout directly following that session. And 2 or 3
Mhm.
years ago, I would have like been so upset at myself for weeks. Like
Mhm.
4 days, I would have just burned and like done nothing and like been super just disappointed because this session, like the swim is supposed to be my thing. Like I'm on a pod, like this is
Yeah.
where my strength is. And to go and like
Yep.
not fail, but not really be close to where you want to be is tough. However, in the context of the week, I've ridden my bike for 29 hours in the
Yep.
last 2 weeks, which is gonna fatigue the legs, and I could feel it. I mean, I felt it 75 yards in. My 3rd flip turn, I was like, "Oh, my
You
legs are
took out
not good."
you took out fast, man. I started my set with you and I had a 25 sprint to start and had already lost about a quarter body length on Kaeleb by the time we touched the first wall. So it was definitely a hot pace, which is so my argument against you saying that that was your worst session is obviously the fatigue in the system, what you said already. So that's the bike fatigue in the system, but also really looking at that from your coach's perspective, it was just supposed to be a stimulus, not a marker. So I think this is where that Yelly Geens podcast, where him and Aaron talk about no PBs, the Joel Friel theory that they're talking about, the core of that is not to not push hard this time of year. It's that your expectation should not be that you are fresh enough to genuinely PB an effort generally. There are some aliens out there that are going to, or you just have a super special day where you do all of a sudden. But the goal of that session for you was you're pretty tired. Let's get a race swim stimulus in that last 1,000 is going to simulate how tired you might be mid-race, and you know you're not going to be swimming your best. You don't have fresh legs that day. You're not in a swim skin. You don't have guys racing around you or anything like that. So the stimulus beats the outcome is why that session doesn't suck. That session wasn't a bad session. It was just a session.
Exactly. And like honestly, it's tough because, you know, the swim's your thing, you wanna do really well in it, but it's also good to remind yourself that, like, worst case scenario, I'm swimming at 23:20, like, that's still like a like, Benny would take that, like, I'd take Benny's 20-mile long
Oh,
run, like,
dude, I
Benny
take
would
that
take
any
a 23,
second.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
just like, you know, it's been hard to, like, we've talked about this, I've touched on it, to hold the effort for the entire 2K because it's such a
Hmm.
long but short portion of the race that it's good to kind of just get the reps in. So yeah, I totally agree. Like it was the session that I look on the weekend, it's like the one I would take back the most, but the stimulus was there. I definitely got done with that feeling like, man, like a bike and a run right now. Like I feel like I could survive it, but this is not where I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So then
My
you did a
best
bike workout right after that though, right?
Yes. So I went
Yeah.
directly, not directly, I had to drive home, but just about directly because of how the day worked out, into a 5.5 hour ride on the trainer with 3 hours endurance into 6 by 10 minutes at half pace. And I did half pace
Yeah.
on the trainer using the trainer watts, which I give myself
Hmm.
15 to 20 watts right there. And I
Hmm.
averaged throughout the whole rep like 305 on the trainer. I did 6 by 10 minutes with a minute off. And then I
Oh, so it
had
was only a
another like,
minute. That's barely a reset. Yeah. So very little rest in between those.
yeah, and it felt hard from the first rep. I like right away, I was like, this is gonna be like this is a grinder. This is mentally preparing yourself for what the race is gonna feel like. And
Hmm.
I feel like at the end of the day, like if you could push 70.3 power after a swim TT and a 3 hour endurance pace, like that's probably got to be close to 70.3 power. And I held it. I held arrow. I was where I wanted to be. And it's kind of hard to be disappointed at the end of the day when you just did almost 7 hours of training and you know a 5.5 hour ride on the trainer, pushing more power than you've pushed for a 70.3. And you've got like your, you know, your magical 70 or your trainer watts. They're not, I don't know. Anybody who uses the kicker core or the kicker knows that that like 305 is not quite 305
It's
outside.
hard earned. It's hard earned 305. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no there's no fake watts coming out of that. I always like outdoors too, because I always start, we all do this, but like I start every single effort kind of like out of the saddle for a second and get the legs rolling. It's like
Oh yeah, get that
20
average
free
way
watts
high.
right there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. You start the average 30 seconds into any interval, you're over 400 watts for your average, whether it's a whatever the effort is. So yeah, I think that's, dude. You got to look at that whole day, Kale. That's like you says. That's a huge still. Like if you were like doing anything incredibly impressive in that day, almost as your coach, I'd be more worried. Where I'd be like, oh crap, this is like we're really fit right now. We might need a little bit of like pulling back just a second here. If you like crush that day, expecting that the next couple days you'd garner some serious fatigue, almost like a race effort. So those efforts in one day is big because that shows that it's clicking off well and you operated well under fatigue.
Yes, and, like, I feel like I mean, I did literally another bike session today, which was like a
Mhm.
30-minute pyramid, so I recovered well enough from it, and I did a 14-mile long run today. Like,
I
we
saw that. Yeah.
it couldn't have it was a big stimulus, but I also feel like it wasn't excessive. It was a point where I was able to handle it and then absorb it,
Yeah.
and then I go into the off day tomorrow, and we're back at it on Sunday.
That's a great 48 hours. The best is I know the worst sections mixed into there, but just look at the 48 hours. That's all that matters. I mean, it's really just like, I know we talked best and worst session, which is almost we're doing it tongue in cheek. Because at the same point when we
Exactly.
get to this conversation today, I'm going to say it doesn't matter. Like it's just the raw
Yeah.
bulk of the work is what matters. Nice. Okay, going on to me. Speaking of balancing fatigue and all that, I was forced to take an off day today because my coaches don't trust me. So I do today would have been just like an easy swim and run for me, maybe 2-3 hours of training or whatever. So I'm at like 20 and a half hours with this being the off day. So still, if I had trained today, would have been rolling right around that usual like 23 hours seems to be what I settle well into this time of year. That was, oh, I have the totals up, but it's going to end up being by the end of this week, if everything rolls through fine, it'll be another like 11 and a half hours of biking. It'll be less swimming because I'd usually swim today, but I took the day off swimming. So like 17 or 18K maybe swimming. And then it'll be mid 40s on the run instead of into the 50s where I'd been floating for a bit there, which is fine. Not too worried about that. But yeah, worst session for me is pretty easy because, it's fine. I was looking through my old training peaks. And last year, this week in February, no, it was the week before. In February is when I started feeling quote unquote tightness in my hip as I kept on putting in the comments over and over and over again on a lot of runs. Just kept on saying hips getting tighter, hips getting tighter, hips getting tighter. So this, obviously I think there is some self-fulfilling prophecy. I see this in PT a lot that I think our anxiety around sometimes how we feel or injuries does rear its ugly head. And sometimes I think it does it in weird cyclical patterns. It's almost like our subconscious starts to stem up some of these issues. I think in similar time periods or similar loads of training or similar levels of anxiety going into a race. So kind of went through that the last couple days, but I had my worst session by far was I came off, and this was classic, this happened to me too last year, came off Sunday, what I think was one of my best runs of this block. And Kale was there with us. Kale did his long run. And Kale, you did, remind me, what was your workout? You ended up doing 5 of the 2Ks.
Yeah, like 5 by 2K, like that, kinda everybody calls it zone 2, but like tempo, like
Yeah,
6:05 to
yeah, whatever we want to call
6:10
it.
pace.
Yeah, and me and Josh did our 2Ks together. We did 6, and then I added a K on the end, and we did a minute and a half, like just easy in between each, and chopped down to like a 6:39 was our fastest 2K. Felt like I was rolling, running very smooth for me. Average was like 6:45 to 6:50, and it felt very reproducible. But I was really opening up my stride quite a bit, and I think I paid for it a little bit with Monday took a little easy, Tuesday, and then got back to another run workout on Wednesday. And just felt like all of a sudden 330Ks felt like threshold and right hamstring started to tighten up. So the right hamstring became kind of an issue. And I thought, I was like, ooh boy, like this is right around the time last year going into the beginning of the season, Bill, where I injured myself again. So I did mention it, Dari and Josh. I think that they kind of like didn't freak out, but definitely saw the same time period of year, the same issue, the same part of the run build. So we got through Thursday though. And actually, I would say if Wednesday's run was my worst workout, Thursday's bike was my best workout by far because I did a workout while Kale was doing his 2K. So I did a good swim workout for me. We won't even go through the numbers because now I'm officially the slowest bull swimmer here. But my feel for the water's going great. I feel like that effort was very reproducible for me over and over again, which is, I know where that puts me swimming wise. So I'm confident with that. But yeah, then I went home, hamstring was a little tight, got on the bike and it felt great and narrow. So I was like, we're going to be fine. And even a run after felt fine. But I think Josh and Ari were just being careful. But the bike workout was, actually, let me look at it. It was actually like this on the surface doesn't seem like a big workout, but it was sneaky with because it was almost an hour and a half of like 73 watts. It was a 3-hour ride, warm up, and then got into 2-minute surge, which for me on the trainer, because it's all aero, is 320 to 330 for my surge, 2 minutes, and then settle into 285 to 295. And that was 12 minutes, and then right back into a 2-minute surge, and then right back into 12 minutes. But there's no break. So it was 28 minutes on. It was just on, basically 30 minutes of like dancing, kind of simulating what a race is like. Like, yeah, and Ari put it really well in there. He's like, surge a 2-minute, how long it's going to take to pass people for a 20-meter draft zone, which is basically what we're doing there. And then settle back into that power. And what I was happy with was how easy the settle back felt. Like, because 290 for me on the trainer is good power for me on the trainer. Historically, I do not do well just holding that aero position there, but 3 rounds of that, so just under an hour and a half, and then settle out to a 3-hour ride basically, which I was happy with this time of year. It's not breaking like that workout. I feel like on the surface doesn't sound like a big workout, but to me and just knowing my ability where I've been before, I was like, ooh, that's solid. Like that's good work.
No, that sounds insane. That sounds incredibly
that's
hard.
a hard workout. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
But that was the thing is that's why I was so happy. This is why I was kind of pissed at Josh Hart for being like, no training today. Cause I was like, oh guys, I'm not breaking apart. Like clearly this bike workout shows that the hamstring we're just tight. Like it was a grade 1 strain at worst, which is fine. So, but yeah, so I think that showed a lot of good progress on the bike finally, because I've been feeling very, I'll say, just blasé on the bike. Like I haven't felt like I've done anything worth noting for a while on the bike. So it was a good workout for me.
Nice.
Then what do you do for your adjustment? So if you're pushing let's say 295 for 12 minutes on the trainer and the aero, what is that going to feel like outside?
So I'll be honest, I don't in races at any point look at power. I've historically, I get a lot of crap for this, but I'll turn off my computer. So I don't even have time or distance or anything. Especially if I'm feeling really good. I actually like to just turn off all data. I just like to race.
Deal with the consequences.
Outside in a workout though, I think it's 10 to 15 watts is about the difference. Because you rode with me when I did that right before. That was like settling. That surge was like 330 to 350, and then the settle was in the 290s, low 300s, I think, for one of those. And I petered out a little bit towards the end of that workout, and this workout I held strong with. So this one was a little better, but yeah, that's about we'll say 10 or 15 watts between the indoor and outdoor.
Nice, and that's like your 70.3 power is usually like 290-ish from kind of what we've talked
about.
It's
in the 290s usually, yeah.
Yeah, so to be
I've gone over 3. I think I've gone over 3 twice when we've been recording it, and there was a third race where if I didn't go over 3, I was very aero then. So it's right around there. I think is a good day. I'd love to be able to just race dynamics wise race well off of in the 280s, like still be flying in the 280s. But I think I kind of need that 290s to have a good bike day. I think most of us do. And in today's game, I think even to be strong in the mid pack now, you need to be 3 or over. I think that's becoming the game. Yeah. Regardless of size too, because as we all talk about, is we've had to train out of Ben too. Because I know Ben, I was the same way for a while. I was like, oh, but my watts per kilo are this. Because I've always been a smaller guy, so I'm like, oh, my watts per kilo is doesn't matter. No, Kael's right. It doesn't. It means nothing. Like literally means nothing. It's a watts per kilo.
North of 300. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd argue even in Oceanside when people are like, oh, well, what about that climb? I'm like, that climb is like 3 minutes long at most, if that. I was like, it's not a watt per kilo game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to, this is kind of going to segue right into what we're talking about, but Kael made a good point that this is a good time of year as we hear about all of our friends' trainings and everything. What would you guys say? 50% of people are in one of 2 places right now, in desperate need of a recovery day, or they will be in desperate need of a recovery day within the next couple of weeks. I think that's the 2 camps. I think everybody's about 8 to 12 weeks into a pretty big build into the start of the year, and we are at the crispy end towards when the weeks are going to look hard, but timing a recovery cycle becomes really important. Kael, I'll throw it to you on this, because basically this conversation is going to go around your training ideologies, not your coach's training ideologies, what you believe in your core works for you and then for other people too. But Kael's already done a good job describing his Saturday off day. So give me kind of your reasoning behind that, Kael.
Yeah, so my big belief is that you can either be predictive in using your day off, or you can be reactive in using your day off. And that basically means your body needs a day off. And whether you want to be honest about that or not is completely up to you. But I choose to choose my day off so that I don't have to take a day off because my hamstrings hurt or take a day off because I get sick. I think that a lot of people get
Kale's looking like the smart guy right now in this conversation too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people get really hung up on, oh, I want to do 30 hours or I want to do 25 hours, but they don't really find any time to recover. And then they just end up getting super tired and then they need to take 3 or 4 days down. And then at the end of the day, consistency ends up failing. So my thought is if I take one day off a week and then I train the house down the other 6 or 5 days, because I like to do an easy day as well, then I can consistently repeat that week in and week out for months and years on end. And I have this is what I've been doing. I mean, you get an off season and you get like time around Christmas, around family, but aside from that, I don't take a recovery week. I take one day off every week and I take one easy day. I try to do one easy day either every week or every other week, kind of depending on how the build's going. And that's just how I've done it, and it seems to be working for me.
Would you say, because this will go into a big conversation around periodization, would you say then, are you actually is your core belief that periodization is overrated then? Or do you believe that,
No.
because kind of what you're saying though is almost that you would like to be able to you use that off day so that you can basically hang at that, whether it's 25 hours a week, 23 hours a week, or whatever, whatever volume you can keep stacking consistently over time? Or do you like to
Sort of.
and don't consider periodization. So I'll take periodization off as like the build from the off season. I don't consider that that's just like being smart coming from your off season. Like you're not just jumping straight back into full training.
Yeah, so I think like there's base building and then there's kind of race prep. And as we went
Mhm.
from base building, which is kind of where we were at up until 2 weeks ago, and you guys were kind of hearing like, okay, I did 17 hours, I did 16 hours, whatever. And I wasn't doing any easy days there. But now we're in like the big aerobic push before we go into very race specific work 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And I think that that's like, I really do believe in periodization and you need to have ebbs and flows in your training, but the end all be all goal should be a consistent say 8, say 12 week block into a race and then a week or two to kind of let your body recover, but also mentally and
Okay.
physically recover.
That's a good point. You could consider that periodization. Now, that would be triathlon periodization, though, I would say. Because, Benny, throw into this, what was a running? So, one, did your Colorado State coach ever throw around the term periodization? And what did that actually mean to you? Because I think it gets because Kale's probably right. It gets used as a word a ton, but like, I very rarely hear coaches justify it as to what they actually mean, like what that periodization truly means.
Yeah, no, so I came into a program with a very young coach, Coach Kelly Hart. She was like, I think at the time I was 23 and she was 26. She was like
Oh,
stepping
wow.
in and became like the interim, and then now she's full-time head coach. Not saying that that is a mark on her not knowing anything about periodization, but
Oh, no, but she
wasn't
was
it
learning as a coach. Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And wasn't a term that was thrown around at all, but I will say like off days were a huge part of our entire program. Like when we were training hard, especially when we were doing like I don't think we ever called them VO2 blocks, but
Fast. Just
when we were
running
just
fast.
running really fast in like February getting ready for or in January getting ready for like indoor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was an off day on I think typically it was like Sundays. Yeah.
That's smart in the running world. I mean, it's pretty well, look at the best program. Well, one of the best programs. YU takes every Sunday off. I do wonder though. So I've never been that close to anybody from the BYU program. And did you know, did everybody actually take that Sunday off?
No.
Oh,
I
so that's
I think
that's
it's
kind
pretty
of a
I think it's pretty nuanced, and I'm not speaking for all of
okay.
like BYU here, but like I'm even
There are
thinking
some guys
about
pushing the rules on that. You're gonna throw some names under the bus here. Is this
dude, Casey Klinger. No, I'm kidding.
Klinger ran every Sunday. Yeah, that's
I'm just thinking about like our team. Like there were guys like Sunday was like the off day for CSU, but even with that being said, like there were guys that were running like an easy hour on Sundays too. Whether or
yeah,
not it was in their plan might be up for debate, but yeah.
yeah. That's
Easy at
interesting.
9 miles. It's not like an
Probably
Yeah,
still
easy
running at
7 mile
6.
yeah,
jog.
Probably still running at 6
Exactly.
pace. They're just calling it easy in their head.
yeah.
I think the triathlon world is probably the worst at this though of true off days. I think across the board we look at professional racing at least. I know with I'll say almost all of my age groupers, not all, because there are a few that I don't have this rule for. Quite a few of them, especially if they're older, we're taking an off day. Or I'm okay with like one guy does like an easy lift on that day. He likes to go with his buddies to the gym, and I'm like, that's okay. Let's keep the lifting volume low. You're just going to have fun. But like in almost all my age groupers, yeah, they're taking one off day a week. I will admit, pro wise, I think as an athlete and as a coach, I'm definitely more reactive than proactive for off days. And I actually do have a reason for that, though. I like Kael's proactive approach because I think it's actually worked very well for him. The reason I think reactive, the argument for reactive, because I'll play devil's advocate to Kael here, is it's harder when you have a younger athlete to predict the loads they're going to be able to handle throughout the year. And I think you might be limiting somebody by being too cautious in a younger athlete. Older athletes are a different story. I genuinely think older's a little bit different story. But when you're building a younger triathlete at a very high level, which I have a couple people outside of Benny too that are right around. Actually, I coach a couple guys younger than Benny that were grinding the axe decently hard. But it's making sure the communication with the coach is always honest. And I do my very best to never come across as a hard ass coach to anybody so that they feel they can tell me when things aren't feeling good. Because I realize that I think the worst coaching relationships are when a coach thinks they need to be a hard ass so that they can kind of get the best out of somebody without realizing that that means they're not going to communicate with you, because we're all people pleasers here. I mean, like everybody on this podcast and other podcasts wants to be the hardest working dude on the like that's what everybody wants to be. Is you never want to claim to be that safe athlete. Like nobody wants to be that, even though that is smart sometimes. But that means you got to be able to communicate with your coach really well if you have a reactive off day policy.
I agree. Like I have arguments with my coach about, hey, I don't really want to take a day off anymore. And then I get sick. All right. Or something comes up and I'm
Yeah.
like get burned out. And it's just like
But you guys have
it's
been doing that for
seriously
a while and it's been working though. That's thing though, is because your body probably expects that now. Yeah.
exactly. And like it's hard to talk about how much like people do in a day, but like the amount of work that like I'm doing in a day, I need a day to just to not
Yeah.
think about triathlon. And it's hard because like I want to be the best athlete I can, and I do genuinely believe that you need to train. Like I should train more. I just think that there's the worst thing that can
You're
happen
pretty
is you get
close
sick
to
or
the
you get injured.
crispy. You're pretty close to the crispy end of what you can do with a job though, dude. I don't think there's much more you could grab. I mean, like really, if we wanted to get into the weeds, I think we all could find a little bit more. But as we all know, is it's there's a terminology I used to love. I forget, God, the author of it, but it was called the one cup theory. It was talking about endurance athletes. It was talking about there's literally one cup of energy for everybody. So as you drain, you need to leave something if you're going to drain it. And that means maybe you're worse at your job that week. Maybe you're not as good of a partner to your, person that week. Maybe you do less around the house. Maybe the lawn doesn't get mowed that week. Like there always has to be that trade-off. So Kael, if you're in that
Exactly.
balance, like I would take away that stress of that idea that you need to go to a reactive off day, because maybe that does not work for you. And I'll be honest, for me, I've been a reactive off day person my entire career. It's worked well for me like 98% of the time. But last year, clearly for a time period, it didn't. And at this exact moment, I'll be fine in a couple of days. But like it's, I swung and missed on assessing how I felt or just letting myself put up the right barriers in time.
Exactly. And I totally agree. I think that triathlon is very important in my life and I want to be the best I can. But like I do have a partner that at the end of the day is going to be here when I'm done with triathlon. And I don't want to
Yeah,
burn
she's way
that
more important
bridge
than triathlon, man.
100%, 100%. And I
Yeah.
know if I was going to be a world champ by this point, and I just want to be the best athlete I can be. And I don't have to go and just like destroy my life and, my family and the people I love just to
Hmm.
be 1% better, like to go 359 instead of 40020. Like that to
Yeah.
me, I'm happy with how hard I'm working and I'm feel that I'm able to be the best version of myself in all of my life instead of just in triathlon. And that's what at the end of the day, like I'm trying to build.
And who knows if taking away that off day would even it might not get you there. So then really the trade-off then becomes amazingly not worth it. Like really becomes
Exactly.
detrimental to your life then at that point, which I think is worthwhile conversations to have, because you're right. We're all talking about the crispy end of what capacity you have to train. And I think that's where being entirely honest with yourself and your coach is so important. So that's a training ideology right there. I think that goes above periodization and all that crap and all that, like, block periodization conversation and all that. It's like, do you have the people around you that you can be honest enough with when it's not going well and you feel like something is wrong? And can you be honest with each other? Because if not, any plan goes out the freaking window. Like, we all see this. Yeah.
We're all in it for the long haul. Like, we're in it to do this for 10 years while working, while getting married and having kids and whatever it is. Like, you can't go all in at 26 and expect
No.
no repercussions or no
Yeah.
externalities. Like, you're going to burn bridges. And
There's one
that's
cup. Yeah.
something that, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, Ben. So going to the now, here's the thing though, is Kale is absolutely not the low volume guy on this podcast by any means, actually. I see the direction of his training, also the direction he's going. We're all four of us, including Josh on this podcast, just having the conversations with guys around the sport. We're in the what is probably going to be considered the requirement volume to be a professional athlete in the sport, which is that 22 to 26 hour range, let's say. And I think when you go north of 26 hours is when you like consistently over 26 hours. I mean, like that's your bread and butter over 26. I think that's when you got to go full time. I think as you get closer to very consistent, touching that 3.0 number. And then when you're above 3.0 is when, in my opinion, you are competing for world championships. That's where you're at. You should be getting paid very well by your sponsors. So, Benny, you are of the few athletes in the game right now that are at that probably crispy end of that volume. Do you lean into the idea of a proactive rest day, or do you still think that you can control yourself well off reactive?
I would probably say more proactive.
Yeah.
Just thinking about the way that we've structured training, like I don't trust myself yet. I'd love to be there at some point in the future, but I don't trust myself to like be my own guide for like listening to how the body's feeling, listening to how I'm emotionally feeling and all these things, because I don't know. I would just opt for, I'm just going to go run for an hour, even
Yeah.
if I thought I needed like an off day, because in my head I rationalize it by like, oh, I'm doing Epsom salt baths. I'm getting 9 hours of sleep every night. I'm yada yada yada. I'm using all these different recovery supplements, but like nothing is true. You can't like replicate a rest
You
day
can't
with it.
yeah. You can't simulate actual rest.
Yeah.
No amount of calcium and magnesium supplements can. No,
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what social media tells anybody. Yeah, there's laying on a couch is king of recovery. Still, it's undefeated. So
Yeah.
then, Ben, what comes up first for you first? Because I think so. We're all going to answer this question. Is it the emotional, mental fatigue where you start to sense things are out of balance and you're near the end, or is it physical?
Definitely emotional. Like we were just talking about like if you once you start getting north of like 26 hours or so, you start like it's really hard to work full time and do that. Work like a 40-hour work week job where about about like 32 of those hours are in the office. And I think it was a few weeks ago I did have like a 30-hour week, and that on top of working full time plus like working an odd shift at like the running store, like the emotional stress and drain of all that was like really, really big. And what did we do that following Monday? I'm pretty sure you plugged in like
Gave
like
you
it was
almost an off day. It was as close as we could get to an off day, which actually we were going to tell you is going to come up for you on a Monday here before Dallas, definitely too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Kale that actually for certain athletes, and as I get to learn an athlete more, I think a proactive rest day approach is good for some athletes. And I think it's probably for those athletes that are going to push the bill no matter what. So if you just set the standard that there is going to be once a block an off day or two, I think that's very important. I'm sold, Kale. Yeah. So then Kale, give us, is it emotional, mental, or physical breakdown for you as you start to feel the burn of a training block?
It's same with Benny. It's emotional. Like, I just get cranky. I'm
Mhm.
like a whiny baby. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. If like I ever get to a session and I'm like, I really don't want to do this. Like, you see a session, you're like, oh, this is gonna be tough. But like I am like, I'll get like emotional. Like, I'll start getting like really upset. And that's when it's like,
Yeah.
dude, we need to back it off just a hair. And that's
Yeah.
where the proactive planner in me is like, hey, this is why Saturday's that day. So I can get through Friday.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Yeah, and that's it's funny because I wish Josh was on this podcast because me and Josh would answer it very differently. For me and Josh, it's 100% physical, and I think that's just from reps over years. So I'm actually doing a talk for a young group of runners. We have a local crew called Whisper Running here, ran by a really good friend of mine named Dave Caldwell, which is like the most talented local high school and middle school runners all have this club team together, which is wild. I remember when I started running, I was just like, our schools barely had running teams. I didn't know there'd ever be club running ever. So it's so cool to see. But I'm doing a talk on longevity and endurance sports. And there's a topic in there I really wanted to address with them where it's talking about like that motivation is very fickle as you get older. So longevity and endurance sports is realizing that both of you guys, I even think Ari's still in this bucket. I think some of the younger, like guys under 30, I'll say in the sport, I love being around you guys because you guys are really motivated to train hard. Like, even though it's not all the time, I get it. I mean, like maybe a coin toss on whether you're motivated or not, but it is like, you guys get me and Josh amped up because I'm just like, I don't know how they stay this motivated all the time. But for me, after a million reps, it's almost like how I think relationships probably develop over time is there's this lack of incredible excitement in every single moment, and it becomes this need or serotonin chemical, as I'm going to talk about in this talk, is falling in love with the moments instead of the dopamine, which is the excitement of what's going to happen next. So serotonin's the in the moment chemicals. There's a lot of chemicals going to that, but serotonin's a really popular one with it. So you're talking about this love of like the boredom of it, the mundane work, the just checking the box and getting through it. So for me, it's never the emotional or mental that fatigues. I'll get cranky every once in a while, but I can usually check myself on that and just move on. The physical breakdown as you get older is it sounds so obvious because it's like the most, it was like, oh, how do you know when a training cycle's not going well? I was like, my body starts to hurt like all the time. And it sounds like the most social media comment of all time. But I think it's an underrated aspect of that is, yeah, after you've been doing it so many years, you got to listen to when your body starts to just like stairs suck all of a sudden. Or for me in my job, it's really great because I get to demo stuff all day physically, which I know sounds like bad recovery, but it's actually great because I get to be up and moving and all that. If I go to demo a single leg jump and it just looks like straight trash, like that is not a good physical sign for me. It's actually one of my markers I've been using for me when I'm like, things aren't going well right now. Like this is body's starting to take a toll.
That's a good like litmus test just to have like worked into your job. Yeah.
I
think I remember you saying on a power rankings podcast, like it might have been St. George,
mm-hmm.
but you said something on a power rankings podcast about like how all the young dudes treat like every single race like it's their Super Bowl. And yes. I've not been able to get it out of my head because it's the truth. Like I think about a race that's coming up and I'm just like, oh my God, like let's go.
This is it. This is the race. This is when I prove myself. Yeah. I will break through. I will win it all. But I love that. Like I know there's probably some old guys where they just like roll their eyes at that. I love that energy. I'm like, dude, I wish I could because I remember feeling that way. I used to race so much. I bike race all the time. I remember thinking local triathlons on a Wednesday night at Caesars Creek State Park in Ohio was literally my Super Bowl every single Wednesday. I wanted to go to that race I wanted to set a course PR every single Wednesday. Like I was so excited for that race. And I wish I could channel back into that, but I've come to the realization that I can't channel back into that energy. So I've come to accept that motivation is more fleeting as you get older, and you got to save it. And you bottle up that motivation. Then it's really, I can put that into races now. And that's probably why I behave like an absolute psychopath during races with like hitting myself and like doing all that crap during races or getting angry and yelling during races, is because I bottle it so up for those days. It's like months I will just get through training. I'm not trying to prove anything in training, then just bottle it up for one day. But yeah, I think it's just an age thing. There's not a right or wrong answer to that. That's just an age aspect. I'd love to hear from somebody though that's in their mid 30s that like still gets that amped up for every single race, because that guy's awesome. That guy or gal is awesome. If there's somebody out there, there's got to be somebody off the top.
I know.
Of
I'm trying to think of like the mid-pack.
I don't think Lionel's there anymore. Oh God, we can't clip that because he'll get. I don't think Lionel's getting as pumped up for every single workout or race as he was when he was in his mid to late 20s. That man was terrifying. I mean, it was. Could you imagine training with that guy on like just a random track on a Tuesday in his mid 20s?
Crying on the trainer.
Yeah, like how do you match that energy?
Jesus.
That's insane.
Yeah. Okay, so going into real quick before we wrap this up then. So give me an idea if you had to answer the question of the worst question in triathlon training we always hear is, do you believe in higher volume over time? Raw, just if you look at yourself and you're like, would volume answer my question? Like answer the question of how do I get better? Or do you believe there are many other ways around that? Because I don't want to say low volume, because I don't think the answer is, I don't think the counter to high volume is low volume. I just think, do you think training more would get you there? I think we kind of answered that as we talked about this, but
Is this for me or is this for Benny?
go ahead, Kale. Yeah, you go first.
Yeah, you can go.
Volume is like, at the end of the day, you need to do volume. That's like the key metric is time over tension.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
So
you,
as
you
much
need to do it
volume as you
consistently.
can handle, though, consistently. Yeah.
That is it. It's the minimum effective dose. The Joel Friale guy got everybody was like, oh, this guy's an idiot. I don't know what he's talking about. No, he's 100% correct. You need to do
he's a
the
genius,
exact
yeah.
amount of volume. Look at the guys he's
Yep.
coached.
Yep.
Exactly the
You're right,
amount you can handle for as long as you can.
Yep. And that's the key, is for as long as you can. Because I think that's the thing, is if we just took it as 7-day blocks, I think people get in the weeds where they're like, well, I could do 36 hours. And you're like, yeah, but could you do that every week for the next 12 weeks? No, of course not. So
Who gives a
you
shit
go the
about
minimum
1
effective
week?
per 7 days. Yeah. It's just a Monday to Sunday. You could block it out to 10 days like some track programs do. I forget what group, but there was a Midwest team, was it Wisconsin or somebody, was on like a 10-day week or 8-day week or something like that. So it just comes down to whatever you want to block that out to.
Yeah,
You can do 45 hours in a week.
Volume. I'll say it's volume when you are up to a certain point in your career, and then I think at a certain point it transitions to volume of intensity. So I actually think when you're younger, I actually don't think the density of intensity matters as much. I think it can be more of a shotgun method. I think it can be like, dude, just go ride hard in the mountains. Don't overthink this. Or just go run with your team. It's going to be an hour and a half long run. You guys are going to flog each other. Just go run. Or go to any swim practice, as Kel knows, any collegiate swim practice. Does the intensity matter? No. The coach could close his eyes and write something up on the board. You guys are going to kill each other. It's when you're young, I do think it's just volume. Is get the most volume you can that is fitting into life and you are managing well. And then I think as you get older, it comes down to that volume naturally has to come down, which is always an existential crisis moment. But what happens there is then I think the amount of intensity you can shove into those hours becomes way more important. So just the volume of intensity within zones becomes really important. But that's, I think, once you crest into getting older in the career. Okay. Yeah. But volume's volume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I had spoke with Ari like right after. Yeah, we were getting Chipotle like right after Augusta. And
Classic.
I asked him like, what's the biggest difference? Because we had just seen him. He was second overall.
Breakthrough, basically.
Yeah. We just saw him like break through, and I was just like, okay, so like you had a really good year this year, and this is even before Indian Wells, where again he had a really good race. And I was like, what's the biggest difference like between this year and what you did last year? I'm not sure if he was only with Jack for this past year.
Yeah, he was.
But he said that like the very cut and dry main thing, just more triples. He just had more days where he did 3
more
workouts
intensity
in a day.
More intensity. Yep. And he's right at that age where things are probably starting to slowly transition over the next 2 to 3 years if you're looking at a window. Because, I mean, I really think if you were just to throw a number at him, like maybe 30 for most guys, 30 years old is when the transition comes from just that raw volume accumulation. I think Sam Long is one of the best examples of that. The guy did crazy volume when he was younger. The guy was just going a 10-hour ride for absolutely no reason, which was great. I loved that style of training. I hated people whenever they'd be like, oh, that's why he's not a good swimmer. Like, Sam Long is going to be one of the best North American triathletes, period, ever. And he's gone on to be that. And it was just because the guy was a workhorse and when he was young. He has more responsibilities in life. He has, as he's very open about, way less time on his table. So he now, I am sure if you diagnose or dissected his training, the specificity of intensity, I bet, is just getting through the roof because he's still maintaining great fitness, which means probably still doing good volume, probably not the volume he was doing when he was younger. I bet it's less. And he is dialing in to probably, I bet that guy could do a 3-hour ride and like 2 hours and 50 minutes of it is quality. Like he's focused for probably 2 hours and 50 minutes at that ride because he has to be now. Yeah. Okay. Going into our last but most important question of this podcast, as we try to wrap this up in close to 1 hour. This is completely from Benny. We're going NBA, because I don't want to open this up to other sports here. And I love that Kale doesn't. No, wait, Kale, did you know that we were going to ask this question? Because it's going to be funnier if Kale just has to do this off the top of his head.
I don't even know any NBA players, dude.
Yes. Okay, then what we're going to do is you have to guess, but then me and Benny are going to come up with an NBA player for you. Benny wanted to ask,
I like that.
What NBA player are you? Understanding that all three of us could never be in the NBA or the D League or even ride the bench in any D1 bad basketball team.
High school basketball would be like maybe.
Yeah.
I'm tall, and
played
that's the only thing I've got.
7th grade. I played a summer of AAU ball. That's about the peak of my basketball career.
Fourth grade.
So I was 13 the last time that I cared. But I'm a huge NBA fan, so I love this question from Benny. Benny, you're going first. If you had
Yeah.
to give us the archetype, what player are you?
Yeah, I'm going. Oh, I need to pull it back out because I had it. I'm gonna go Damian Lillard here. Just
Okay.
total, just like kind of arrogant confidence take here. I feel like he's kind of an elite offensive weapon on one
Yep.
end of the floor. I think you can make that. You can kind of parallel, like, okay, Ben's a pretty good bike runner guy, so
Yeah.
he's really
That's
good on one end of
offense
the
and
floor.
So we're going with that
Yeah.
being offense. So
Bike and run is offense.
I actually
yeah.
like the idea of swimming being more defensive basketball. Like,
Because you're trying to get some time. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to get some position. You know, it's all about
Yeah.
positioning. But being like the elite runner in a group, definitely you got to be a 3-point threat. You got to be a 3-point threat because you're racking up a lot of points, and you're probably going to end up higher on the. So yeah, I like that.
On the defensive end of the floor.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
so I'm a weaker swimmer. I know I'm just hemorrhaging time there, and that's what Lillard is doing. It's what he's done his whole career. He's never really been
getting
an
back down.
above average defender. Maybe
No,
even
he
maybe I'm
was-
fighting for that, but
He was okay, but he would. I mean, well, and he was always overmatched. I mean, especially in the
Yeah.
era of now point guards being like 6'4" to 6'8". Sometimes it seems like,
Yeah.
he was getting over. If somebody wanted to post up on him, he was in trouble for sure.
Yeah. So but he's got a little, I don't know. He's got a little bit of an ego, a little bit of arrogance to him, and I think there's a little bit of that in me, but
he's a likable guy at the same
he's
time.
he's a good dude.
It was a likable
Yeah.
ego. Yeah.
But
No, I like that.
if there's like 10, 15 seconds left,
If there's a
Dame's
K
team's
left,
down by 2, if there's a K left within striking distance, he's got the whole Dame time thing. I feel like I can kind of play that Hunter card. So that's I've got the Damian Lillard comp.
I like it.
Here. Yeah.
I like it. Okay, Kel, your NBA knowledge. How many players do you know in the NBA? One. If you just name them, then we're gonna pick one for you.
I'm trying to think of a Kale comp.
All right. So
I got one.
I knew the question they were going to ask, and I had an NFL player, but the NBA players that I've got are like I know LeBron. I know LeBron has a son in the NBA, and
You're not
I know
Bronny.
that
You're not.
No.
You're not Bronny James. I'm not gonna give that one to you. That would be so insulting.
and I know that there's some Eastern European guys that really like horses. And that
Yes, Djokovic. Yes, the Joker.
but dude, I like seriously, I know nothing about the NBA. Like,
I'm going.
literally
Okay,
that-
so Benny, we both get to choose for Kayla. I'm gonna go older. I'm going early 2000s. I think Kayla's Ben Wallace, and the reason is great defender. So if we're equating
like it.
swimming to defending, he's a guy you need on your team. But I will say is struggles on the run right now. Ben Wallace definitely could not shoot from 3. Ben Wallace probably made 5 threes in his entire career, I think. So, but the guy was great teammate on a championship team, so has that ability to bike, because we all know what wins championships, biking. But great defensive guy. So if we're equating swimming and biking to it, he's Ben Wallace, in my opinion.
Yeah, I really like that. I guess I'm going a little later, but same exact mindset. We've created this like legend where offense is linked with like 3-point shooting, and
Yes.
I'm gonna go Rajon Rondo. Really like this.
Oh, I
this
like
comp.
Rondo.
I know
Yeah,
Rondo.
that's a good one.
I've heard of Rondo. I've actually
Rondo's
heard
a
of
great
him.
defender too. Yeah. Very
Yeah, 'cause
cagey
he's
defender.
pretty. Yeah, really cagey. He can put people in the kind of the torture chamber sometimes.
Yep.
On the defensive end, he's not a crazy offensive threat, but every now and then he can be a little flashy.
He
and
could.
Maybe that's Kale just out of nowhere dropping like
Drop a
freaking
118 on the
crazy
run, maybe.
volume.
Yeah.
He's dropping a 117. Yeah.
118.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I
I
like
like it.
okay, so Rajon Rondo or Ben Wallace. I actually like those two. From that is funny. Okay, I have to go older on me then, because there were 2 players I was thinking of, but they both come from different eras. So I'm a Lakers fan right now just because I'm a huge LeBron James fan. So I cheer for literally whatever team LeBron James has been to. Everybody can hate that as much as they want on this podcast. I don't care. I'm from Ohio. He was our savior. It was great. I would cheer for him if he went and played in Europe. I could care less. But I would say that I am Kyle Korver or Mike Miller from that era. Now, these are deep cuts, so you got to know some NBA ball to know who Kyle Korver and Mike Miller are. But I'm going to go Mike Miller on this because I think Kyle Korver was a little too good of a three-point shooter, so I'm not going to say my run was as good as Kyle Korver, but Mike Miller could go a solid 4 out of 8 from 3. He was a good defender, serviceable defender, comes off the bench. His joints and everything kind of hurt too. He's always got like a bunch of wraps on. He always was kind of hurt, but played basically every single game. Like Mike Miller, I'm pretty sure played like every game that guy was able to get into, he played. But yeah, that's especially being a LeBron James fan because they played together in Cleveland, I think. And actually, I think Mike Miller went to Miami Heat too.
Yeah, I think Miami. Yeah.
So they actually played together twice. So I think I'd say I'm a Mike Miller.
I like that comp. My Mike Miller Hall of Fame moment, I think it was with the Heat in the finals versus the Spurs. I remember he like drained like a very, very needed 3 with one shoe on.
I do.
One shoe was like,
remember that moment.
Yeah.
Yep. What a run for them that year too. They had so many like guys on the team step up that year. So yeah, I'll take that. I love that because I think that's actually fair in how we go around because like Dame Lillard clearly is actually the best player in this conversation. But the other two guys, I mean, Ben Wallace was one heck of a defender, that is for sure.
And Rondo's, yeah.
Yep. I like it. That's a good.
I like this segment. We got to do now. We have
Josh
to do
next
one.
week. We'll do NFL. We'll do NFL next week with Josh.
Yeah, and that's perfect because I have like no NFL knowledge. So
Josh definitely knows the NFL.
Position.
Josh knows NFL. Kale, do you know NFL?
Just knew a player that I wanted to say I was, but I'll save it for next week.
Save it for next week, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, write that down. Save that for next week. I'm interested to hear Josh's take on this. We just need to. Josh is Tom Brady if he came back and played because he's old. All right, guys. Great chat this week. We probably got close to an hour once it edits out. We're right around that hour mark.
Yeah. Altitude conversion will get us down.
Altitude conversion will get us down. Yeah. It's 56 minutes with the altitude conversion.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Great chat and see you next week.